In our latest video on Namibia and South Africa, we're going to look at the activity. Venus oil field moving closer towards development. Lots of other news, lots of discoveries and disappointments. This update was made in April 2025, and today we're going to cover Venus moving closer to development, ReconAfrica's Namibia well results, and the next well that's due to spud imminently, Rhino Resources, looking at their onshore plans for South Africa. We're going to look offshore at the latest appraisal wells at Mopane, Sagittarius oil discovery, early days, but looking good for Rhino Resources. Kapana, dry hole, and within the Venus block we've got the Tamboti discovery, which has been declared uncommercial. Marula has spudded, and Olympi, well, that's the next prospect to follow on after the Marula well. So let's go straight to the Venus development. And well, for Venus, the environmental and social impact assessment has been completed. In a nutshell, looking at drilling up to 40 subsea wells, going to produce hydrocarbons from these subsea wells and take them back to an FPSO, floating production and storage and offshore loading vessel, which will be moored in the field. Plan is to re-inject all the gas back into the subsea wells, less any that gets used in the production process, and transfer the oil from the FPSO to shuttle tankers to be taken to the refineries. The FID, once that's in place, it's going to be 4 to 6 years of construction, drilling and installation, and then it's hoped for over 20 years of production. A reminder, here's the location of Venus. You can see a long way from the shore, basically, at the closest point there near Alexander Bay. It's approximately 300 kilometers. It's a sort of an offshore loading solution. This is what the development plan would look like. It's drilling up to 40 wells, and there'll be a layout something like this, kind of freestanding producers and probably some manifolds, and all tied together with flow lines, with umbilical controls, etc. It's anticipated the gas will be injected back into the reservoir via some subsea wells, perhaps at some distance from the producers that are extracting the oil. Here in more detail, we've got the hydrocarbon production at 1, going to the fluid separation, so separating out the oil, the gas, and in time probably increasing amounts of water, transferring the oil from the FPSO to a shuttle tanker. It's anticipated that the oil will actually get transferred from one tanker to another in a nearshore area and then transported to its final destination, which would be onshore. It's not clear whether it be onshore in Namibia, in Africa, or somewhere else in the world. Pause the video if you want to have a look at that. There were some dates given for presentations that are being made in the local community, and there's a link. Let's have a look at some of the recent wells, and we'll start with onshore. Now, the big news, I guess, is Namibia. There's the red arrow shows the location of the well. I'm going to have a look at this in a little bit of detail. We get lots of requests for assessments of what's going on in the ReconAfrica block, and hopefully we can shed some light. ReconAfrica have announced the results of the first Damara Fold Belt well. So the Damara Fold Belt, I'm not sure how far west it goes. There may actually be other wells on the Fold Belt, but this is certainly the first in the block. ReconAfrica license. Supposedly the well found 52 meters of net reservoir in the Proterozoic Atavi group. Now we'll have a look at a stratigraphic column just to see where this is and to kind of get some idea of how old this reservoir. And reported oil shows. Now that's a map, a seismic line, and an interpreted section. I think this is pre-drilled because by the looks of it, all of those zones were actually thought that they could be filled with oil, but once drilled, it doesn't look like any of them are filled with oil. Maybe there's a few shows around. So this is some talk. Brian Rensborough, the president and CEO, said, Prospect I, this is the next well to be drilled. That's the largest map structure in the Fold Belt. Now, why wasn't it drilled first? I don't know. It's well imaged on 2D and demonstrates a 4-way dip closure. Yes, indeed, it's a very, very sort of northwest-southeast trending elongate anticline, as are all the features in this region. And it's expected to penetrate 1,500 meters of Atavi reservoir. Now, the drilling has significantly been reduced or de-risked by the results of the Namibia well. which encountered the Atavi carbonate hydrocarbon shows at oil to surface. Now, when I saw oil to surface, maybe not quite what I mean by oil to surface or understand by oil to surface. We're excited to drill this follow-on exploration well as we continue to look to unlock the significant hydrocarbon potential of the Damara fold belt. Well, maybe this is trying to drive up the oil price, and you can see there, look back in time, it's really not been going terribly well since the initial well results were announced. The entry from our TROVE database, lots of information on the Nangopo well, and here's a sort of context setter. This is a sort of an older pre-spud map. It does help to actually show these are the 3 stratigraphic tests that were drilled back in time. We have questioned before why there were 3 and why none of them actually seem to have targeted a valid structure. Now, we think these structures are quite valid. This is the fold belt. I think this is Nangapo here, and the next in the sequence is this one, I think, up here. But we'll see that in the next slide. Now, common risks. There's bound to be some very similar looking plays. There's reported oil shows, but there's oil shows and there's oil shows, and it would appear that hydrocarbon charge may be lacking in the area. Certainly at Nangopo it was, or maybe it's a preservation issue. You can see the gas seeps out here over to the east and again up to the north. However, there was one supposedly just at or near to the Nangopo structure. So we assess that there's going to be quite a small chance of commercial success, but hey, the well will be drilled, and we love to be proved wrong. If we look here, here's Prospect Eye. It's basically going to be down here in the Atavia. Now, this is a very, very old rock. In fact, this mid-Malden here, that's probably some Carboniferous in age. You can see there's this major unconformity that's kind of come down, as actually eroded through, even down to these Carboniferous sediments. And then there's a relatively thin section, thin cover over the top of these. This is what it's targeting. It hasn't got there yet, so we don't know that there is oil down here, but this is the plan, and you can see the structure does look to be valid. We'll wait and see. Here's the stratigraphy. This is the sort of mid-Malden here would make it sort of Ediacaran to early Paleozoic. Well, I'm kind of saying, is that at least Carboniferous in age, sort of 300 to 360 million years old? The Atavi, well, I had to look this up. I didn't actually recognize the cryogeny, and I knew it had something to do with the frozen earth, but that actually puts the ages around about Precambrian, sort of 720 to 635 million years ago. And look, we're using AI. We're right up with the times. So here's the map showing Nangapo and Prospect Eye. When we look at the map in some more detail, it's not obvious. There's no control on this closure, or indeed this one here. That there's one seismic line going southwest northeast that defines the structure, and a few others over here. But do we know that it actually closes? Probably not. Anyway, oil shows in the Atavia of KW62. Again, there's shows and shows. But it does look that it's going to be the second well. It's, when you read it, it's Kambundu. It's marked on and looks like has it drilled, or is it still a prospect? I think we've decided it's a prospect now. You can see here, 25 prospects and 49 leads if you add all these up. Here's what the wells, how they compare, very similar structures. You can see the sort of thrust anticlines here. In the case of Nangopo, you don't have erosion down to the Malden level, but you do at Kambundu Prospect and Prospect Eye, the next one to be drilled. Now, if we read down here, a little bit of small print down here, so evidence of oil in the Atavi footwall. Now, that's the quote, and if you read the small print, it says evidence of oil included oil recovered from the mud pits. Okay. Mud gas while drilling. Very rarely a well that doesn't have any mud gas in it. Rock fluorescence in cuttings. Well, I don't think you mean rock fluorescence. If that's mineral fluorescence, it's got nothing to do with hydrocarbon. I think what that's meant to be is that there's some kind of cut fluorescence or streaming cut fluorescence or some kind of fluid fluorescence in the pore spaces. And inactive gas seep analysis. Well, That one beats me. I've no idea what that means. Anyway, kind of rather than it being oil to surface, I think all of that description amounts to just oil shows, and we don't really know how good they are. Certainly this well wasn't tested, and it didn't flow to the surface, so we really have no idea if it is capable of producing at commercial rates. It doesn't sound all that brilliant. Moving on and looking at Rhino Resources now. Rhino Resources, they're talking about drilling down in South Africa in the Karoo Basin area. This is obviously a shallow drilling setup here, but they're planning on up to 6 wells to be drilled. Now, they're saying that they're drilling for natural gas, helium and or hydrogen. Yeah, it is known in the area, and there are many examples that have been captured in TROVE for this area. We'll take a quick look at TROVE and see what some of them are. Quick look at TROVE. Here's the Karoo. Lots of information, background, regional stuff in here. Go back, have a look at just those countries. We're going to have a look at only South Africa. So here's all the South Africa entries that we have here. You can see we've got a lot of them. Let's try and narrow that down somewhat by going for just the onshore. And you can see here's the sorts of things that we have. Korhan. You can see we've got spuds 3 wells, gas presence shown. There's things like Virginia, where you can see these are the sorts of plays that are being followed in the area. Vanda, Virginia, and it's in the Karoo Basin. So a quick look at the sort of information that you can rapidly find within TROVE Southern Africa. So moving to the recent wells and moving to the offshore region now. Continued success at Mopane. Now the 3X well was located in the south end of the field, and it's shown on the N-Ventures map down at the south. Spudded in January 2025. It's been logged and cored. It's 18 kilometers from the discovery well, which is the 1X, and in water depths of 1,200 meters. Light oil and gas condensate columns in the AVO 10 and the AVO 13 sands, and also a deeper sand. Now, we don't know exactly the age of these things here, kind of Cretaceous, but AVO is amplitude versus offset. So they're seeing various brights that they've penetrated in the well, and they've named them 10 and 13. I don't know what's happened to the 1 to 9 and 11 and 12, but anyway, we've got some good news here with these AVOs, probably in different areas. High pressure reservoirs with excellent porosities, that's very good news. Low viscosity oil, brilliant, and low carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide, fantastic. Now it does say in the press releases from Galp, the operator, these reservoirs are at a higher pressure than the discovery well, so may not be in communication. Well, I think they probably aren't in communication. That would suggest that this might be a compartmentalized field, and that would mean that may need more development wells to actually produce the reserves than you would get in a field where it was all at one pressure. Essentially, it was all part of one big tank of oil. Time will tell, but great news overall. Sagittarius 1X, well, that was drilled in PL85 and spudded in December, reached total depth in February 2025. So it's a BP and ENI, it's the Azul Energy operator. They farmed in with a 42.5% equity prior to drilling. Now, Rhino Resources, they're the company that announced the well, found an oil column in the upper Cretaceous sand, and there was no oil-water contact encountered. So that can be good news. It means that it could be bigger than has been proven by this original well. Prior to spud, Magishino, the petroleum commissioner, said, "One of the most amazing prospects I've ever seen in Namibia, with at least 5 plays to be tested." Well, it seems that only one of them is thought to have worked at this stage, but it's early days. Has the Sagittarius fulfilled expectations? Well, we'll see with follow-up wells in the region. Capricornus exploration well. This is Rhino's forthcoming well, which will be drilled following up from the Sagittarius well, and it's targeting a northeast-southwest trending channel system. It's estimated it'll take about 47 days to drill, and there's the drill ship there, the Noble Venturer. We wish Rhino and Azul every success in that drilling campaign. Kapana 1X exploration well. Now this is Chevron. They farmed into this block, into Pel 90. Here's the location of the well here in the southwest corner of the block. Other prospects identified in this region. I think there's plans to drill a good number of wells into the area. It failed to find any commercial hydrocarbons, so not an awful lot of information given out. Early days, and you can see it's down dip and seaward of the Mopane discovery, and indeed just north of Venus, so possibly a disappointing result. Here's Tamboti, and it was operated by Total Energies in Pel 56. It tested a new upper Cretaceous play to the north of Venus, again in ultra-deep water. Black oil was encountered in 84-metre net reservoir within the Mangetti fan system, but reservoir quality is poor, low permeability, so not really a great result. And after logging and coring and testing, Total has declared this discovery as uncommercial. Significant shows, unlike some of the ones we were hearing of earlier. Now, the next wells that Total Energies is going to be involved in, well, they're shown on here. Marula 1X is going to be located to the south of Venus. Here's Marula 1X, and it's targeting an Albion-aged sandstone within the Marula fan complex. So a lot of these fans coming off from the Africa mainland here and basically coming out and emptying out into the ocean in the geological past. After Marula, there's going to be the Olympi prospect, again another Albion sandstone within a structure on this block over to the west, 2912 or license Pel 91. So watch this space, we'll be reporting on those in due course. M&A activity in 2025, well, we've had Chevron completed its farm-in for 80% of the Walvis Bay, so we've been talking about, in essence, the Orange Basin here. The Walvis Basin is the next one up to the north, and they farmed into Pel 82. Over in Pel 96, Tower Resources have acquired an additional 5% equity from partner ZM, who are carried in this license, so they now hold 60% and operatorship. In South Africa, Africa Oil has increased its stake in blocks 3B, 4B. Here's 3B and 4B. This is the Orange Basin Deep. And so Africa Oil has now got 18% equity, formerly at 10%. Let us know if you hear of any other mergers and acquisitions, or actually acquisitions and divestments rather than corporate activity. In the Orange Basin Deep blocks, Total Energies are planning 2 wells in the block in 2026. They'll be the first wells that have been drilled off the west coast of South Africa since the Gazania 1 dry hole, which was Eco-Atlantic operated. That was drilled a couple of years ago. Environmental groups, they've been challenging the drilling here in these waters, but my goodness me, if South Africa could open up some significant resources here, particularly in the light of the disappointment of Brulpadda and Leopard gas discoveries. It would be good news, but time will tell. Hopefully they'll get permission to go ahead and at least look and find and see if there is something there of significance. It could really transform the economy of South Africa. There's Brulpadda, here's Leopard, and it's basically down to Africa Energy. They're the only licensee left on this block now. They're basically doing a marine survey, which they're hoping is going to help them sort of design subsea system needed to exploit what they're saying is a 4.5 TCF gas and condensate discoveries. Now, there are other plays on the block. We've covered these in earlier videos, and in fact, there's also opportunities up here on the eastern side of the block. But for now, it's a very large area, technically challenging with some commercial issues. So what are the takeaways from today's video? Well, ReconAfrica, they're about to drill their 5th well on their onshore Namibia license. Doesn't seem to be a lot of noteworthy success to date, but We wish them well in their 5th well. Mopane appraisal has gone well. It's confirmed as a large discovery, although it may be that there's compartmentalization to consider. It's not the end of the world. Azul Energy and Rhino Resources, well, it looks like they've got a discovery at Sagittarius. We still don't know its size, and we await the next well in that license. Chevron operated Kapana, first well in the block they farmed into. Well, it didn't find commercial hydrocarbons. Now, I assume it had shows, that's what I would take from it, but there weren't enough, possibly thin columns of hydrocarbon in sands, or there was just shows in some of the sands. Time will tell. Total Energies that confirmed that the Tamboti discovery is actually non-commercial, so a concern there with low permeability sandstones. That just to the north of Venus. There is going to be more Orange Basin wells to come in Namibia and South Africa, hence discoveries and disappointments. But the best news is that Venus is still moving towards FID and development with the publication of the Environmental Impact Assessment, or they call it something slightly differently down there, ESIA. Subscribe! Only about 25% of our viewers do subscribe to the channel. Now you get the benefits of always being informed when there's a new video out, and if you're not sure how to do it, ask your kids. They probably understand this technology better than certainly older folk like me. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Lots more to come in the Orange Basin and in Southern Africa. Bye for now. Thank you for watching. I hope you found that interesting. Please hit the like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Hope to see you back on our channel before too long. Bye for now.